Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senior Spotlight. This is Mary Cordova with Concierge Care Advisors. We are a senior housing and care company. We help seniors stay at home safely and give them all the tools to do so, and also implement some ancillary items to help them with their retirement. Today I am here with Aaron Steele from Steele Financial.
Steele Capital Management.
Thank you, Aaron. Steele Capital Management. We've worked with Aaron for quite some time on the financial planning of our seniors and also veterans benefits, and just wanted to welcome Aaron. And also we have Miss Jenny Austin on the line. She's one of our senior advisors. She's been with us for several years and been in the senior environment for probably over 15 years. So welcome, Jenny, as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Go ahead and share a little bit about your company, when you started your company, what your vision was, and what your passion is to help seniors prepare for their retirement.
Try to keep it short. So I've been in financial services for 30 years. 2014, I left what I was doing then to start Steele Capital Management. Really with a focus on seniors, recognizing that is that transition is financially scary. A lot of financial problems around that. Financial planning at the end of the day is providing solutions to complicated or unique financial problems. That's what financial planning is. So we started it back then. Steele Capital Management is a full service financial services firm. So we do everything you would expect. We do retirement planning, wealth management. I just say that our niche is working with those seniors that are no longer safe in the home. And so by doing that, we're looking for a solution to this stage of life. And so just making sure that they're financially protected through the process. If it means that we need to integrate government programs or benefits as part of the solution for them and have those benefits subsidize their long-term care needs without them going broke, without them so-called spending down, then that's our goal.
Wonderful. And obviously we work hand in glove because we can't transition somebody without them knowing what their finances look like.
Yep. And we can't create a financial plan if we don't know what their housing solution looks like.
Well, we appreciate that because we absolutely know that there's financial advisors out there that do asset preservation and perhaps want to protect the assets, but not look at how much does it cost this gentleman or female, of course, to move forward and what we might need to get them in a good place. We know in the state of Washington that there's always housing, Medicaid, and also depending on what your monthly looks like. But if someone can privately pay for at least a few months, the outcome is always a little bit better than going into a Medicaid upon arrival, home.
Which is generally never a good solution. And so It works so well to work with a company like Concierge Care Advisors, because at the end of the day, we want to create a private pay scenario. And so our private pay scenario could be 6 months to a year. It could be a 5-year. We could create a financial plan that really expects us to private pay for 5 years. It could be a 6 months where we got a situation where Medicaid is more of a priority because we have one spouse that's at home and remaining independent, and the other spouse that needs a long-term care need. And so in that situation, just how the rules work with these agencies and their benefits, what strategies we can implement, then that Medicaid solution works better. So
absolutely agree. One thing I want to toot our horn about is in 14 years of doing this, when we have someone that has, like you said, just a small nest egg, somebody as a well spouse at home, they're going to keep the home, but we might have maybe $30,000 that we can do a 5-month rollover to Medicaid and write into the contract that they'll never have to leave for financial reasons. And in 14 years, that's never come back to haunt us.
Yeah,
so,
exceptional.
Yeah, I really am proud of our staff for doing this, but also where can you bring $40,000 and use it for a forever nest egg?
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about that, and that's something that we continue to do today. We just write into the contract, they'll never leave for financial reasons. It protects the consumer, the provider, and us, of course.
Sure.
So we so appreciate that. What do you find where people are really unprepared for the economic cost of what we're looking at today? You know, to keep somebody in their home around the clock, 24/7 for in-home care is about 30 grand right now.
Yeah.
And obviously that's shocking to anybody, whether you were born in the 30s or if you're born today. That's a lot of money, and we know that. But how do you have those conversations with people to say, you know, $9,000 is really, you divide that by 720 hours in a month, and that's minimum wage, right? That people are paying to live somewhere to get full care. But how are you having those conversations with someone that's 85 years old and $8,000 is half of a house back then?
Yeah. Well, the conversation in most cases doesn't happen with the 85-year-old. The
Right,
conversation happens
with the power of attorneys.
with the adult children.
Right,
So
right.
those stakeholders in the conversation are key to the conversation, helping the adult children to create a plan for mom and dad. And mom and dad can be involved in the conversation for sure. Absolutely.
Right.
But the kids catch things that mom and dad don't necessarily catch. But, you know, that's changed over the years, right? It wasn't, you know, I think dementia and cognitive impairment has really changed aging.
Yes.
And 20 years ago or 25 years ago, we would refer to senior housing as nursing homes.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got these beautiful communities that in some cases, in a lot of cases, people want to move into. Being unprepared means that you just don't have long-term care insurance.
Right.
And at 85, it's just not available to you anymore. Or you're underinsured, right? And in a lot of cases, long-term care insurance today is kind of cost prohibitive anyway.
Right.
And so I don't do personally a lot of long-term care insurance. We, for whatever reason, I don't know why that is, but we try to find a direction or an angle around that by protecting the assets and working within the strategies associated with these government agencies. The number one unprepared is that sometimes when we sit down and start developing a plan, the plan could take 3 or 4 different directions. And nothing's really actionable until game time, so to say.
Right.
Until now there's an event that happened, but at least we've had the opportunity to kind of talk through 3 different ideas of what that action plan looks like. And I find that if people do a little bit of planning where we're talking ahead of time, what we call pre-planning,
Right.
There's a lot that we can actually do. Unfortunately, I tend to find some people on the other end of that where they live in this space where they were under the expectation that they had to spend down, they had to go broke. You'll hear me say spend down means go broke. That's a
Yes.
bad financial plan.
Yep.
And you'll hear of people being in this situation where they took no offensive action for their financial life, spent down, went broke, and now they are inquiring about government agencies and benefits. And my reaction is, unfortunately, we could have saved you
Right.
then.
You came to me too late.
Yeah, you didn't have to get the divorce.
Right.
We could have protected you financially then.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Yeah.
That brings me back to 2005. I went to work for a company, actually pre-Brookdale. It was called Altera in Alderwood. I sold medical supplies for 20 years and got in this side of the business. And the first week, a little old lady came into my office and she said, I understand I have to divorce my husband. And
So
I
sad.
had a tear in my eye. I said, who told you that and why?
60 years of marriage.
Absolutely. And she said, well, in order to keep him here. And I just looked at her and said, I need to get you a financial advisor. No, you never have to divorce your husband. I don't know who told you this myth. And if you're getting your financial information from a clinician at a nursing home or a CNA, please don't. We have people leaving the hospital that have $30,000 and they're told, go out and buy things, get down to that $2,000 Medicaid threshold.
Without
And
their
you'll,
private pay.
yeah, and then you'll be down to that threshold. And we could have found them, a 6-month private pay, wonderful home that would have been a long-term care policy for the rest of their life.
Sure.
But some clinician at the hospital said, oh no, in order to get on Medicaid, you need to go spend that money. Go do something to fix up the house that you're never going to live in. Unfortunate. So if you're getting your financial advice from a clinician at the hospital or a nursing home, I would say don't, and look up Steele Capital Management. Thanks, Aaron. I'm going to just go over to Miss Jenny if there's anything that you would like to share on what you find where people either have prepared and you have a good outcome with their retirement, or they haven't prepared. We always have somewhere for them to go, but they don't always have the options of somebody that has prepared for their retirement.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's great when I hear from someone and they'll tell me that their parents have planned for this time in their life. I mean, that they have investment accounts and that they're, you know, they don't really have to worry about how much it's going to cost. But more often than not, I hear that, they have just their Social Security income and a small pension and no savings, or just a small, pot of money that we have to, problem solve to find them a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I really, love it when we have more money to work with, of course, but fortunately there's, options out there. I always tell people that, we have options for just about everyone.
Yep.
But we do have to work with our partners like Aaron, oftentimes to help people, and get a little creative.
Mm-hmm. And it's great.
Yeah,
So we can go to Aaron and say, what is the best way to set them up for success? And we're not
exactly.
in the business for moving somebody twice, but we also have to work with the requirements and sometimes limitations, right, of what people's finances are. And so sometimes having somebody go somewhere and getting the best journey and then worrying about perhaps the next 5 years. We had
Mm-hmm.
someone that has a pretty late stage disease that's terminal. They can pay privately for 12 years. And their loved ones are concerned about being in a place where they never have to move. But the quality of life to me is more important right now for the next 10 years. And then we can obviously transfer over to a Medicaid rollover building. We know that we always want to move somebody once, but we also know if it's for the best outcome, sometimes it might take 2 transitions to go through their aging journey for the best outcome of that individual. So we're always looking at today, tomorrow, and forever. And like you said, Miss Jenny, when we have somebody that has come to us with pre-planning from Aaron, the outcomes are always better because we know what they're up against. And Aaron just mentioned that depending when they're going to move or depending on that crisis, he can come up with 3 or 4 scenarios. But based on when they're going to pull the plug to say, I'm going to move forward, what does that really look like? Sometimes people stay in their home too long and they're bringing in-home care for 25 grand a month. And then after maybe 6 months of that, they're going, oh, wow, we just went through $150,000 and we could be paying $9,000 a month and get our, room and board or housekeeping, 3 meals a day, and have retirement living. We have transportation to our doctor's offices. We have socialization. We're no longer isolated. The quality of moving to an assisted living is something that we really need to expose to people. Like you said, some of those places out there are just amazing. Aaron, you mentioned that you don't see very many long-term care policies or don't write very many. What is the perfect age for an adult child, I guess, to look at long-term care policies? As you said, 85 years old, it's too late. You can't get qualified for a long-term care policy. And we're seeing less and less long-term care policies, aren't we? So are people not selling them, or is it just not advantageous for them to get those policies based on cost?
Yeah, younger is better.
Yep.
It's been a while since I priced a long-term care policy, and I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not the best insurance type of.
Sure.
We don't do a ton of it. So, but it's been a couple years, and when I looked at it, just to give you an idea, the rates could have changed for the better.
Sure.
But it was, to get a $250,000 policy was costing somewhere around $1,000 a month.
So it's just cost prohibitive.
Yeah, and if you have that for 25 years,
yeah,
you've paid in as much as the benefit is.
Absolutely. So you can pay out of pocket what you're going to get for that time frame, and that you might not use.
Well, and there's no earnings on those assets either.
Right.
So assuming if those assets can be productive, if we start integrating these types of government programs as part of what I call backstops and safety nets to the plan. These programs are very circumstantial. They're very situational. A lot of times we have to create the circumstances or create the situation for these benefits to be payable. So especially for the 85-year-olds, that's what we find as solutions. Many of the 85-year-olds have 65-year-old adult children,
right? Which
kind of leads into our retirement planning, pre-planning, and so we do capture a fair amount of clients through that as well. And we still a lot of our conversations just tend to be self-insuring.
Mm-hmm.
How do we look at the bulk of your assets, project what those assets are going to look like over time with the sale of your home, and then what's the productivity on those assets look like, and kind of back into COLAs on the cost of care over time.
Mm-hmm. And what about people that don't have all of those assets to be able to preserve, but they have the veterans benefit? Can you talk a little bit about that on a restricted budget? Maybe they have a husband and wife. The husband's going to stay at home. They don't want to sell the home, but they're under the $150,000 threshold, and the veteran can apply for the VA benefit.
So again, it's there are strategies associated with protecting assets, and so VA aid and attendance benefit, it is a pension benefit offered through the VA, similar to but not the same as a service comp disability. Again, it is circumstantial, it is situational. Under the right set of circumstances, that benefit will pay. So again, oftentimes when we're creating those circumstances or discussing those, we're doing so around aid and attendance benefits, and we have our own claims agent. We don't charge to file those claims, but we can have assets, and the VA will give us a lot of leeway to protect assets because, like Medicaid, the VA defines assets as exempt assets and non-exempt assets. The secret sauce is, so to say, in what you can do with exempt assets and what you can do with non-exempt. And a lot of that gets into working with our attorney partners to create estates, oftentimes trusts that now own these assets, and that brings in a bunch of tax implications that if I hold on to this house as a rental versus if I'm selling it, what is my capacity for granting these assets? So there's a lot that goes into it that I don't think we would have time